Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the LTA Week 2 of Split 2. It's time to get things started with C9 going up against DSG. I'm Captain Flowers, joined by Azael for this one. And Mr. Azael, I think DSG got their work cut out for them.
Yeah, I definitely think that is fair to say. We're going to have to see how they're looking in Week 2, though. I will say, last week against FlyQuest, they were very, very competitive. You know, that was a lot closer than I think anyone would have expected. For me, FlyQuest is a team I had powering #1. DSG was the team I had dead last. So the fact that that was a really close game gave me some hope for DSG and what they can actually build towards. But Cloud9 definitely are the big favorites in this one. You can see Abbedagge trying to get locked in. Looking like he was doing a little bit of meditation there as the picks and bans are already kicking off.
Yeah, I feel like last week was probably the best performance we've seen yet from Disguised in the LTA between Split 1 and now. Yeah, by a significant margin was how I was going to end the sentence. I'm glad we're on the same page there. And DSG is going to have to be on that same page that they were against FlyQuest if they want to have a chance here against C9. So let's see what the bans are looking like. It's Jace, Varus, and Vi banned out by C9. Over on Disguised side, it's Yone, Callista, and Rumble. Very standard stuff all the way across, and it's Gwen, first pick here for most likely Thanatos.
Yeah, very, very likely going to be the Thanatos. It is possible that it can get played in jungle. We saw it 4 times last week. It actually lost every single game, and it was played in top lane every single game. So is a really strong champion. I don't think that performance last week was really indicative of where it's at, because I actually believe it's the best champion on the whole patch. I think this champion is insanely overpowered. It is really, really difficult to punish. Even some of the matchups that had been kind of considered counter matchups, I think that Gwen can actually just go like grasp and biscuits and get through and often even win some of those early matchups against these champions that are supposed to punish. Versus easy matchups, you can just go conquer and scale to infinity. And you do still have such powerful late game that I feel like this champion really is a powerhouse. So I'm going to be excited to see how Thanatos does. I felt like last week in his performance when he brought it out, he played that Flash Exhaust Gwen against Riven from Sniper, who was playing the Flash Ignite. And I actually thought in the 1v1 he was doing really, really well. Couldn't really convert it in that 5v5, but I think that was more about Quid playing amazing than it was about Thanatos playing poorly.
Well, Azir and Sejuani will be locked in as the first 2 picks here for Disguised. Very stock standard team fighting that we've seen a million times beforehand with these 2 champions. Back over on C9's side, their response will be a Corki and a Poppy locked in.
Yep, going to be locking those in. Poppy, a little bit interesting, because we haven't seen, champions that are that reliant on their dashes, but of course, it is going to be the Gnar locked in now too. You can always stuff the Sejuani and the Azir, that's definitely not bad. But generally when we see Poppy coming in early, I feel like it's more about, really shutting down some of these AD carry things in bot lane like Callista or Lucian or picks like that, or shutting down a really aggressive jungler like Lee Sin or champions more in that range than the Azir and the Sejuani.
Well, obviously, we don't have a look into the coach's notebook on this one, but there's also always the possibility of using it as kind of a preventative measure, trying to ward them away from going towards a more mobile pick by saying, hey, you're going to have to play it into this, kind of dissuade that sort of decision-making. We are into the second half of the draft now, though, with Gnar locked in on Disguise. It's Talia and Ezreal banned out in the second half.
And the other thing about the Poppy that's really nice when you're picking it early is it is also a flex, right? We know that Gwen could be jungle or top, but we also know Poppy could be both jungle or support. Yeah, there's in theory it could be top lane, but it's not going to be top lane. I don't think. You don't really see it very often up there unless it is kind of a pretty specific counter pick. Yeah, it can be a good answer in things like Cassante, for example. But we are getting a couple of jungle bans, so clearly DSG believes that this is Gwen top and this is Poppy support. Yeah, and that is what they are kind of working under here with both the Talia ban and the Xin Zhao ban coming out.
And I mean, I feel like that's a pretty safe assumption to make. We already saw Thanatos play Gwen once, like you were already talking about earlier on in the draft. Poppy, to me, doesn't really scream like Blaber champion if I'm looking at it, really. So I feel like that's a pretty safe assumption. Nautilus, final ban of the draft here, as Misfortune is locked in for Disguise and ScaryJerry. Now, Isaac, I know that you and I are generally on the same page when it comes to Misfortune. The champion has a lot of trouble getting the damage done that she needs to get done unless conditions are precise.
Yeah, I mean, sure, her lane, undebatably, very, very strong. She can control mid-wave as well, really well. When you're on one enemy, you get that BT, you move the MF mid, you have full control over that mid lane. It's very difficult to actually then play through mid against her. That being said, the setup in team fights is so tough to actually get right at the pro level. People are so aware of the MF ult that they're not just going to stack up and walk in and give you this freebie. So without really good setup, as far as the CC, it's very tough to actually get good, valuable MF ults. We'll see if ScaryJerry can do that. They, of course, have Sejuani ult. They have potential of, Gnar slamming someone in, things like that. Bard is going to be used to really try to find some of these picks. But I am a bit surprised by the Bard pick, because generally Bard is super high value when there's like Ashe, Varus, Victor, champions without a dash. Yeah. Every carry that you would want to target here has a dash. We have Valkyrie, we have Abscond of Duct, we have the Skip and Slash, and all of these tools to actually dodge it, which I do think makes it harder for huhi to get high value.
Over on the other side, do want to point out, hey, I called it wrong. It will be Blaber on Poppy in the jungle. Azael, you've got the stats computer over there. Can you tell me how many lifetime Poppy games Blaber has on the champion? I'm a little bit curious about that. Want to see exactly where that lands. Vulcan, of course, being on the Rakan, being that engage mechanism for C9. I do like the fact that they went with this option.
9 games, and he is 4 and 5.
Okay, so about as even as you can get for an odd number. We'll see if he can get that tied up at a nice, clean 50% win rate after this one. Obviously, C9 coming into this one, heavy favorites, like we already talked about. Vulcan on the Rakan, the main engage mechanism. Also worth pointing out, the other champion we didn't talk a whole lot about during that first draft here for C9 is the Sylas locked in. That's one of these champions that I generally expect to see him picked when there's a powerful defensive ulti on the enemy team, because that usually feels like that's the highest value for him to steal. But this time around, not necessarily the case.
Yeah, not necessarily the case. Definitely none of those super S-tier ultis to steal. Things like the Alistar, things like, even Blitz has a really insane ulti to steal. When we look over and you see what he can actually grab, Gnar is very, very good. Because super high ratio on that ultimate, it can be a ton of damage. Besides that, obviously we've seen the Sylas stolen ults on the Azir so many times, and kind of those traded ultis. And then having the Sejuani potentially can give you some engage. So there are some good tools. Maybe none of the super S-tier ones, but definitely very strong. And I do think that C9's draft kind of across the board is pretty strong, but I do think it's kind of like higher variance than what we see over on DSG side, because it is much shorter range, right? You have 4 melee champions here, and then the Corki, which, yeah, you can poke with your rockets, but the auto attack range is relatively short, and you're against things like the Azir, like the Sejuani, like this MF, that you're going to be having these slow fields going down, and you're going to be having, more damage kind of coming in. If you don't nail that engage, could go pretty bad for you, because 4 melee champions, just the way that they generally team fight, you are going to get grouped up, and that can be tough.
Yeah. Excited, bro. Excited.
He's excited, yeah. They're turned up. You ever beat C9 before?
No.
No? Never? Never beat C9?
I'm only good at beating the noobs. I never lost to Immortals.
You don't win this, bro.
I'm like 5-0 against Immortals.
He's only good at beating the noobs.
5-0 against Immortals, but unfortunately for him, they're no longer in the league.
Yeah,
so,
that does mean he gets to end that record flawless for the rest of history.
Wow. ScaryJerry using the barrier very early there, just on a Foss bomb, just to kind of keep health high. So I guess he's saying, you know what? We're laning against Rakan Corki. It's not going to be some sort of crazy 100-0 play, so just use it to kind of basically absorb a bit of damage, use it for health, and try to keep that health high. And you can see Thanatos is playing grass. So like I said, in some of these more difficult matchups, a lot of people are, and he's playing biscuits. This is the exact kind of setup that I was talking about. When you go grass primary, biscuits secondary, and you're basically just prepping your grasp and then stepping forward, with your eXyu, get a grass proc, get a little bit of chip damage, and you have so much sustain that even some of these matchups that are supposed to be difficult early kind of no longer become difficult early. So Gwen, still, even with this rune page, yeah, you're not going to scale as well as if you're like Conqueror full scaling runes, obviously. Right. But just the nature of the champion is it is a beast on a couple items, and it is still very difficult to deal with. So we'll see. eXyu doesn't really have any vision, as the observers are highlighting, and we saw that Blaber was moving in. It is going to be spotted now. And both junglers do have their smite, but eXyu is going to at least be able to get the big one. We'll lose a lot of the little ones. Look like he lost 3 or 4 to Blaber, so yeah, not a super successful invade though, because Sejuani finished the full clear, and we are going to have just that red buff up for him, so he's just going to base and then come back out, defend that red, and Blaber's just going to go back towards his side.
Yeah, smart move, skipping the red, going straight to the Krugs. I feel like we've been seeing a lot of these types of invades last week, kicking off Split 2. A lot of the red side
especially and stuff.
Red side jungler getting invaded at his red buff, so just kind of being wise to that, being like, you know what, just in case, let's play this the safer route. It ends up paying off for eXyu.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think it is really smart. If he's on his red buff there, he can't finish it before Blaber gets in 100%, right?
No way.
Then it's going to get difficult, and it could be either a 50-50 or more likely, when you're getting invaded, you spend all your spells on the camp that you're using, you're attacking, and then the enemy jungler just spends all their spells on you, and all of a sudden you're pushed out, and then you just lose that camp. So it's pretty smart pathing there from eXyu. Just picked up some boots and a cloth armor here early on, and is going to be right back out on the map. Now grabs his red, and is going down towards bot side, where huhi is covering for him on that scuttle, so we'll be able to cross back, grab the scuttle. And because Blaber's on this side of the map, he kind of reverse cleared back. He started Raptors, those respawn. So after his failed invade, he cleared his topside camps, went back towards bot. Hasn't taken a base yet, but this does mean there is a potential for eXyu to actually get a double scuttle if he is aware that the top one has not yet been taken.
A little bit of trading back and forth down here in bottom lane. Nice binding from huhi there on the Bard. And I feel like this bottom lane is going to be very important if Disguise wants to be competitive against Cloud9 in this game. huhi on the roams, causing disruption all over the map, being able to contribute to multiple different skirmishes, multiple different fights is going to be very valuable, especially on a champion like Bard that already likes to do that. And I think that in the game against FlyQuest, one thing that in particular stood out to me was ScaryJerry having a much better performance than he had put on up until that point. I think he's had a very rough start in the LTA, and if Jerry can get that under control and step up to the level that they need him to be, that'll be a huge jump forward for Disguise.
It really will, and I think we saw some of that already in Split 2, especially against FlyQuest, was able to kind of get into a winning position, and that's something that huhi was able to actually talk about on pros as well. And talking about the experience and kind of how much time it's going to take to be able to actually get that experience and get those adjustments made. Something we also saw last week, obviously, was Cloud9 and some of their struggles too. Loki in particular, I think, is in that first game, really was not able to kind of perform to the level that he wanted. So Loki definitely looking to bounce back and have a strong performance here.
And we are hitting that point of the game where we're having the late swap, where since the new rules about lane swaps are in order, lots of times we are seeing our top laners now go down towards that bottom part of the map. You can see Thanatos earlier spent the teleport to return to the bottom lane. eXyu, however, just going after the dragon first, going to allow C9 to just take this first set of grubs. Disguise just agreeing to handshake on the objectives. They do have an Azir. They do have a Sejuani. They know they have scaling power, so they're happy to go with that.
Castle actually almost just stolen with that boulder toss. I want to say it went to 1 HP. I did see 1 HP on the grub, but I'm not sure if he hit to 1 or he hit it and then Blaber hit it after and went to 1, but that was really close to actually stealing 1 away and would have been really nice for DSG because it would have taken that away. We had Toast here, though, last week, and he said he was losing some hair watching the games.
Okay.
So we're going to check in on how the hair is doing in this game here against C9, because last week had some close moments, but did end up definitely losing some hair.
Okay.
He's got quite a bit to work with, though, so he's definitely, he's doing all right, and things so far pretty neutral,
Okay.
He's not going to be stressing. I think he's doing just fine. So we'll see where DSG goes from here and how bald Toast is going to be at the end of the game.
So he's not balding, but he doesn't have poggy-woggy hair either right now.
No.
He's just normal guy.
He's just a normal guy with some nice hair.
Okay. So
And, he's very invested in these games, so his hair is going to pay the price, potentially.
we will check
reap the
back
rewards.
in as the game moves forward and figure out exactly where those follicles do or do not stand. But for now, it's a very, very uneventful early game. First 7 minutes have already passed. No fight over this for a couple objectives. Just like I already said, those are going to be hand shook one way and the other. We got 3 minutes until the next set of the grubs spawns. It will be desynced from the second spawn of the dragon by a little bit under 1 minute. So we might just see a straight up grubs rush, might see both teams go for it, or we might just see another delayed handshake.
I mean, I think if I'm DSG, I'm probably pretty happy with the fact that it is a fairly uneventful early game here. You've got Sejuani, Azir, you got a lot of scaling in that way. Of course, C9 does also have some pretty good scaling, but I think it's more about how they kind of play through sides and their playmaking. It's not as simple of just playing that kind of front-to-back style of team fight that I think DSG is really looking for, with a couple of beefy boys in front of the MF and the Azir, really just trying to kind of create space for those carries. But of course, they have a lot of these X-Factor champs here. Like Poppy could ult someone critical out. We could see a really good stolen ult from Loki. Vulcan is going to be playing Rakan on, which is one of the most explosive engaged champs.
Oh, nicely done. Alley-oops him right into Blaber's waiting arms. Abbedagge's in some danger, but there's first blood back over to Loki. Beautifully done with the stolen Emperor's Divide.
Yeah, that was really nice there. Utilizing that Azir Poppy combo. He steals the ult, and then you can just slam him into the wall. You're utilizing that Azir ult for it. And Blaber and Loki able to find the kill. This is really well done.
All right, let's take another look at how he does it.
Yeah, this is just one more time. He gets this stolen Azir ult, and you can use that stolen Azir ult as the wall for Poppy to slam him into. So even though he has the pink, he's already backing off. There's no ability to really react to this. He would have had to flash very early and avoid the initial ult. Even though he gets out of the CC, eventually he's been knocked up, then flashed under the wall. By the time he flashes away, we just see Loki coming in, finishing him off for that kill, and a little bit of frustration showing there for Abbedagge.
And I mean, the Poppy was so far away, Blaber had to flash to get in range for the tackle, but that also means when the Loki engage is initially coming out and he's not throwing you straight backwards, he's just pushing you off to the side, it's one of those moments of just like, hey, wait, what's going on? Strange angle, and then boom, slammed into the wall, hard to react, disguised, coming up top side here, looking to maybe make a play onto Thanatos, but there's nothing to find. He's out.
Yep, Thanatos just going to be able to easily back it off. They send 4 top there. Castle will base and now go answer bot, but they're already losing most of, if not this entire first wave that had died. So they lost 5 minions already. He's going to be able to catch the second wave at least mostly, and they lost at least 1 plate down there. Well, they didn't really get anything on the top side, so this swap may work out in the long run, but at least for the start, it is way better for C9.
I mean, C9 is up 1.7 thousand gold. The only individual player on Disguise's side that has a gold advantage is ScaryJerry, who's up 100 over Zven. And really, that can all be attributed to the way that C9 wanted to overload the top side for the grubs, and ScaryJerry was left in the bottom lane to farm the wave instead. That's kind of the amount of gold that he's still up. So C9 is building all these leads here in the early game. Huhi gets a slow onto Zven, but not a whole lot more. Forces the flash out with a tempered fate, but Zven staying alive as Disguise are first to the grub pit. Remember what I said earlier, if they want to rush this, there's no way that C9 can just go for the dragon instead. C9 ready to step forward and challenge for the rest of these grubs. They already got 3 from that first set. Disguise now going to abandon the rest of the mission. They got the 1 grub. That's all they're going to get, and C9 will take the remaining 2.
Yep, going to be pretty happy that they at least denied the 6 grubs, but still, C9 at the end of the day, they lose the flash on their AD, but they do get 2 of those grubs, so they will have the 1 Void Might spawn, and still could move down towards that second dragon when it does spawn if they want to force towards that. Thanatos just going to be clearing out a ward here as Huhi trying to do his best to find some sort of angle. Already has I think they're called the winged moon plates or something like that.
Yeah,
the moves
the
you want.
pants.
I always just call them the moon pants.
Yeah.
But we have Loki trading heavily with Castle. He's about to mega out, so I don't really think there's an angle for a dive here unless he gets really low. Because the stolen ulti was already used, I think, off of the Gnar. So without that, I think it would be really hard to actually force a dive into a Mega Gnar.
I mean, if he had it, I wouldn't put it past him to try it.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're right. As long as there's no ulti there, there's not really a whole lot of a chance unless he reverts back to mini right now. Vulcan trying to get away as Castle just forces him on back. eXyu being nearby does keep Castle safe, but Blaber jumping in to steal the Gromp there. Nicely done, picking up some extra resources.
Yeah, that's really nice as well, just because he delays the base from Castle, right? So he kind of cancels the base there, hurts his tempo a little bit. MF coming out on the map is going to now go to mid. Azir goes towards top. Castle has to stay out at lower HP, where we can see Loki already got to go back to base. Zven, though, remember, no flash. Looks like he'll be okay.
Yeah, he's all right. There's nothing for him to get trapped to on the binding from the bar. Also worth noting that Blaber jumping in there, stealing away that Gromp, made the jungle discrepancy that much more intense. He was level 9 compared to only the level 7 of eXyu, who has now hit 8 after clearing his next camp, but Blaber really out-tempoing the Sejuani here.
Yeah, but he is playing Phase Rush on the Poppy. He's also going for that more aggressive build. It's not just going to be Tank Poppy, it is Sundered Sky, so the burst is actually quite high. It is just kind of a lot of upfront damage, and then your damage is completely gone after you use that first round of spells, but it's quite a lot, and DSG is already here on the Dragon. Loki's up on top side. I think they're just going to trade for plates because DSG already TP'd in Abbedagge and they have no TP on Castle. So this should be 2 to 3 plates on top side. And I think as long as they just kind of slow them down, it's going to be really, really beneficial for Cloud9. I mean, 5 grubs. It looks like it's going to be 3 plates at the very least now. So that's a lot of gold grabbed up there by Loki. And I think the fact that they committed the teleport from Abbedagge instead of just walking him top and maybe TPing him down if there was a fight does cost them quite a lot. I mean, look how low that tower got. That's a ton of gold now going into the pocket of Loki. He had already completed his Roa. Now he's 850 gold up in that individual matchup. So top side of the map is eating good for Cloud9.
Yeah, this is a great start for Loki. He's got the only kill in the game. He's the guy who gets to benefit from the Dragon for Plates trade that you're talking about. They are putting a lot of resources into this Sylas, and I feel like it's a pretty solid plan, especially when you've got those Gnar ultis to seal as the game goes on. Thanatos doing a little bit of needlework down here just to try to force Castle back, get this wave shoved up. Vulcan also hanging around as Loki and Thanatos ready to continue to push the wave. The next wave about to arrive for them here. Crash that into the turret. Maybe take the last little bit of damage here on this play. Blaber's about to join. Vulcan still looking for the angle to maybe facilitate this dive, but with Castle, huhi, and ScaryJerry all around, it would be dangerous.
Yeah, exactly. So Zven was actually roaming down from mid. They were looking for an angle. I think that the reason Thanatos uses ulti so early is he wanted to chip Castle low, then Loki comes down, seals the ult, and they try to set up his 5-man play. Once they saw ScaryJerry actually moving down, though, Zven immediately went back towards mid, and they call off the dive. Abbedagge is farming plates on top, so now it's this time DSG that are getting the additional gold off the map. Cloud9, though, still playing the map much better overall. Over 2,000 gold ahead with just the 1 kill to their name. And this bot lane tower is getting quite low.
Oh, nicely done from Loki, and Blaber slams Castle back into the wall before he can transform. The Gnar bar charged, but Poppy charged first. Oh, that hurts so bad for Castle, man.
And this mid-jungle duo from Cloud9 popping off in this game. First it's the stolen Azir ult to get the kill on Abbedagge. Now this time it is the stolen Mega Gnar ult. Scoops him in, Blaber gets the flash slam on the wall, and they 100-0 him before he can mega out, before he can flash, before he can do anything, and it gets them the first tower off the back of that as well.
This feels like what you would see in a Sylas champion spotlight video, where they take situations that are specifically engineered to show you the cool stuff you can do on the champion and use those to demonstrate it, because Loki is just racking up these plays with the stolen ultis, always casting them first, getting the better of his opponents, and working together with Blaber to build a lead that is now over 3,000 gold at 15 minutes.
And I think he has a ton of gold. He hasn't been back to base in a long time. I want to see what he actually buys on this base, because he did grab the Roa, and so he is going to be able to grab Phoenix Codex as well as the mask there. So he has almost the entire second item. He has the components of that. So he is going to be on 2 items extremely fast. If he goes top, kills a wave, gets the tower, he's already going to be on that Riftmaker as well. So Roa Riftmaker, you are very tanky. You have high sustain. He went Conqueror for that more scaling style. And if you can have someone just be constantly hitting in these fights, it is going to be very difficult to actually burst down Loki before we can get multiple rotations of those spells out and really start to heal up a lot. And that is definitely going to be a problem. You know, he's ahead of the curve as far as experience. He's way ahead of the curve as far as gold. And he is going to be a monster in these fights.
So one thing I'm curious about, a lot of times you will see teams really want to heavily contest Rift Herald. Disguise does have the bonus of Bard, where even if you give away the Rift Herald to your opponents, it's very easy to stop it from being effective by just having Bard ult the tower that the Rift Herald is charging to. So I'm curious if they'll just try to farm out more. Instead, ScaryJerry trading the Zven here in the mid lane. Tempered Fate lands onto Zven. Bullet time clears a wave and not a whole lot more. Now a double knockup coming out from Vulcan as Blaber's ready to show up, and here comes Thanatos too. Double knockup from Blaber. eXyu in danger as Thanatos puts the needlework to work. Castle arrives. He's got the Mega Gnar ready to go, but the rest of Disguise has already fallen back.
Yeah, nicely done there. They are able to survive the play. It does cost them the teleport, though, from Castle, as well as the flash to ignite from huhi. They got the barrier off of Zven, which over these last 2 weeks, it feels like that is what MF ult gets you. It gets you a barrier.
Yeah.
And we saw that from FBI when he was playing against Yon. That's all he ever was able to really get was that. And we saw the Sejuani ult fly out there, but Gwen is immune. And Thanatos just walks on past. He's able to put that pressure on. And they did take that bottom tier 1 down. We can see that Abbedagge is trying to push and get one back there, but Loki's pushing on top side. No one here to answer, so this tower is going to be going down. It's even more gold in his pocket, and I think he likely has the Riftmaker now. And so we can see them look to challenge at this next dragon here, prevent that 3rd dragon for DSG, because that is really all DSG has going for them at this point.
Yeah, Cloud9 up 2 turrets to 0, 5 grubs to 1, 2 kills to nothing, and 3,500 gold, 17 minutes and 45 seconds into the game. Rift Herald summoned up mid lane, the classic play. If nothing else, you get it as a distraction with the dragon spawning. C9 will be first down into the bot side river here as Blaber is ready to drive the Herald straight into the turret, get all of those extra Void Might spawns, all of the extra true damage ticking onto the structure itself. That will burn down. Tier 1 gone. That's going to make contesting forcing this Drake even riskier for Disguise, because now if you start to lose the fight, there's no turret to fall back to for safety. And so instead, they're just going to surrender this Drake. That means no more stacking. They'll trade it for the top lane tier 1 and an infusion of gold instead. But Azael, I feel like Mr. Toast might have a bit of a concern for his hairline at this point.
It's hanging on, but it's definitely looking tough. But I mean, this is a bit of a David versus Goliath type matchup. I mean, when we look at the power rankings from this season, you know, everyone had the top 4 teams in the top 4. Everyone had the bottom 4 teams in the bottom 4. You know, it's one of these situations where there was no divergence there. There was a clear delineation. Everyone who did the rankings.
That's a $15 word. Nicely done, but Loki kills huhi while the Tempered Fate is in the air. He's just got too much damage. He's too far ahead, and huhi is down in the dirt because of it.
Top 4 mid laner, like I said, right there. That's the delineation, you know, and no one really was willing to kind of make that statement that, oh, one of these bottom teams could actually challenge that top 4. The top 4 expected to be Cloud9, TL, 100 Thieves, and FlyQuest. Those are kind of the big 4 that everyone was looking at. The order in which people put the top 4 and the bottom 4 definitely changed a lot.
Yeah.
Everyone had them kind of in these 2 groupings. So teams like DSG and Shopify and Lion, you know, are all, and Dignitas are all trying to actually be one of these teams that can punch up and prove that they can punch up.
Climb the staircase.
Exactly. That's what we're looking to see. So, you know, it is definitely pretty one-sided game thus far here. Cloud9 nearly 5,000 gold ahead, 4.6K in the lead at this point. But that being said, you know, DSG, I think they're going to kind of get like one good team fight in, and then if that goes bad, it's going to be lights out, but they have that one shot still.
And I feel like this game specifically really demonstrates what you're talking about with the difference between a top 4 team versus a bottom 4 team, because it's not like Cloud9's just wiping the floor with them in kills. It's not like it's 15-2. Yeah, they're just passively getting ahead by being smarter about the game, right? Like, they've got more turrets, they've got more farm, they've got better rotations. They don't have to kill their opponents and actively seek PvP. They're just farming, man. They're out in the fields, having a great time.
Yeah, exactly. They're farming gold. And it is definitely looking tough. I mean, C9 has 2 really strong side laners, and it does feel like DSG, you know, is not confident in any of the 1v1 matchups that they could have. You know, Sylas versus Gnar, Sylas versus Azir, Gwen versus either of them. It doesn't feel like there's any matchup that DSG is really happy with. So they are kind of just relegated to sitting back and farming. We saw that Castle was able to push out Thanatos there, but that's just because he had no vision on top side, and I think he wasn't sure where those extra members could be. So, you know, I want to see if DSG are going to continue just matching and playing through sides. They need to have some sort of an angle where huhi or eXyu or someone comes in, turn into a 2v1 or a 3v1, get a kill there. That is the kind of play that you need to be able to make to actually slow down what is starting to feel a little bit inevitable from Cloud9.
And I feel like my big problem for Disguise this game is we saw them try to make like the one play mid, right? And other than that, I'm just trying to think of where was the aggro, where was the playmaking, where was the, like, what's the word I'm looking for? There's like, where's the initiative?
Yeah.
I'm just not seeing them really go for a whole lot.
No, I mean, they're really not. And I think maybe because they have this kind of, you know, beefy front to back comp, they're just, oh, God.
Oh, no. ScaryJerry is not having a good time. They make the engage on C9 side. Jerry's dead. The rest of the fight surely can't go well after this as Loki's ready to jump in, steals away the Sejuani ulti. Hasn't found a target for it here just yet. Thanatos coming around from the bottom lane. Just going to skip his way up there, get right back onto the wave. It's just Jerry, but that's enough. With him dead, C9 now has the green light to go back down into the river, start up the Otacon.
Yep, and that is tough. I don't know. I kind of want to see that again and see exactly what they saw, because ScaryJerry just walks in and he's kind of just separated a bit from the rest of the team. Blaber's able to find an angle. It feels like every time there's any action, it is Blaber there finding a stun. ScaryJerry survives the initial onslaught just barely, but he goes down, and then that is going to be it for the team fight. That is going to be it for the Otacon, and that is Cloud9 taking an even bigger lead here. We can watch it one more time. So they didn't have any eyes on that left side, but they know that someone could be potentially in that brush. Why are you walking away from the team? It looks like he wants to walk to mid to farm a wave or something, but there's not even a wave there.
I think he placed a ward.
That pathing is just crazy. I mean, you could literally place it over the wall even.
Yeah, I'm not going to defend it.
Criminal behavior.
Yeah, I don't think that was a legal move. I do not understand.
You don't pass the tribunal with that one.
No.
And you know who's not getting away with it either. is toast here.
That head is looking awful shiny right about now.
It is, but thankfully he's got a good head shape. You know, he's looking pretty good bald. So toast, it's okay.
You got to make sure there's not any weird like craters or lumps on there.
Exactly. You know, if you low roll and you go bald, speaking of someone with experience, you want to at least high roll on the head shape, right? If you got like a roller coaster head going on and you're bald, that's like a double whammy, man. There's just no coming back from that. But toast, he's looking smooth.
All right, he's ready to go.
He may be follically challenged after this game, but he could pull it off.
Hey,
that's the important part.
We live in Los Angeles. I'm sure there is a lovely toupee shop somewhere around here that can help him get back in order because this game is not one.
Bald is beautiful, Clayton. He doesn't need it, okay?
I'm sorry, brother.
Yeah, you take that back.
No, all right.
Toupee, we don't use that word around here.
I didn't mean to say the forbidden phrase, but C9 is just so far ahead now, man. I mean, I'm not going to mince words about it. We're at the point of the game where Disguise needs C9 to just start doing some real
They need Toast to sub in extra man. Maybe 6-on-5 stuff. You know?
Yeah. Let's just get the sixth man in there.
Yeah.
Remember back when? Oh, a lot of modern day viewers might not know this, but back in the early days of League of Legends and LoL esports, there was not a spectator client in the game. The way that we spectated the games was, the teams each had a sixth man, and it was an invisible Teemo that sat in the fountain, and it was a special version of the game that was allowed to have these 6 players with an invisible Teemo. He just never moved. He sat in a fountain, and that's how you spectate.
There you go.
So we just need Toast to now be able to pilot an invisible Teemo, except you can actually use it.
If he was invisible and he could attack them, that could cause some problems for Cloud9.
Yes, that's just about the only thing at this point, barring some sort of a major throw. Baron just about to spawn. Still only 4 kills in 25 minutes. If you came here for PvP, you're not getting much of it. What we have got has been good.
Yeah.
But there's not been a lot.
I mean, Cloud9 hasn't had to do anything more because they're getting everything they want, right? You know, every time they're able to actually find an opportunity, they execute on that kill. They're getting more through sides. They're taking away camps. They're getting objectives. It's like, look at the jungle farm, by the way. Blaber is 225 CS at 25 minutes as a Poppy jungle. Like, that is crazy. He has as much farm as the enemy top laner. Yeah. He's stealing away so many camps, getting so much farm. So they're just continually pushing this game ahead to a degree where, for DSG, it's feeling like a little bit of a do nothing and lose game, where
it's feeling a lot like that.
You've got to do something. You've got to choose your moment because the moment is slipping away, and it's slipping away fast. This may be their last chance here, is trying to find something on this Baron, but Loki and Vulcan are ready.
Vulcan going immediately for the engage, forces out the flash from huhi. C9 nearly having the Baron all the way down, but a Tempered Fate is going to interrupt it. Blaber still down in the pit as Vulcan and Loki try to zone everybody away. Thanatos now on guard duty. The Baron down to about 2,500 now. Thanatos trying to rejoin up with the rest of the team. A little bit more damage under the Baron is going to get it done, and C9 have claimed the objective, but what about the fight right after? Bullet time, locking Blaber up as he tries to get away. He's stunned up close to the wall, and Blaber's finally going to drop. Disguised is on the board as Thanatos skips and slashes his way back over the wall. Abbedagge died in trade, a 1-for-1, but the Baron goes over to C9 for a decided victory, and they're ready to keep the fight going. Thanatos is first to jump in, trying to use that Hallowed Mist to stay alive. He might just die first, but no, he gets back over the wall, and Loki's on a rampage. ScaryJerry's dead next, and Loki's not stopping with 1. A double kill for the Sylas, and he's still not done. Huhi's going to be the next victim, and it's an 8-2 game. Make it 9. C9 looking good.
How about this game from Loki, though? The confidence, he being back in there to actually start the fight. Thanatos just goes in at half health, 1v4 to keep them interested. Loki arrives back with the teleport, steals the Sejuani ult, and it's a pie to the face for ScaryJerry. He nails him with it, just gets blown up. Jerry can't even get the flash off, and Cloud9, they're styling on him. You lose a member taking Baron in your opponent's face, and you're the one chasing them down for a fight? Like, this is crazy. Here's the Uber Eats delivery teleport, and he gets there, and he's delivering the Sejuani ult right to the face of ScaryJerry. Nails him, and look at the AP ratio on that thing. He is just deleted. And they're just going to chase through the towers. They want even more. They have their dinner. Now it's huhi for dessert.
Oh, man, that was just brutal there. There's no way Disguised has any way to fight back against the lead that C9 has built. You're talking about Loki having an amazing game. 5-0 0-3 here on the Sylas. Maxed out bounty, 3 fully completed items with the needlessly large rod in inventory, working on the 4th, as well as the 10-stack Dark
too.
Seal. Yeah, the tier 3 boots. This Sylas is just completely out of control.
Yeah, I mean, it's a 3.6k gold lead as far as mid lane. It's a 3k gold lead as far as jungle. Like, this is just domination from Cloud9, and this is definitely looking like a top-of-the-table team versus a bottom team in this league right now. And DSG, it feels like a regression from last week where it felt like they were showing a lot more confidence. They were trying to do things. This week, they kind of just drafted all scaling and didn't fight.
Yeah, it feels a little rough for Disguise right now as Zven gets caught in the Bard ulti. I think Bullet Time did 1 wave of damage to Vulcan.
Gotta lock it.
Yeah, that's just not...
Vulcan no Loki. You click that, you time the cooldown, put it in the chat.
The MF is definitely not convincing either of us this game, I don't think. But C9 going in. Loki throws out the abduct, not going to find a target there. Now Abbedagge raising a second turret off the ruins of the one that just fell. C9 going to be pushed back for 1 more wave, but probably not much longer than that. Another wave collides into the mid lane where Thanatos was working to get that pushed up. Remember that he did die at the very end of the previous fight, so did not have Baron to keep things enchanted, but the Baron has now worn off from everyone on C9. Another wave ready to push up. C9 also knows that the dragon is available for them to take. They stopped Disguise from having any sort of stacking after that first 2. And honestly, I don't think Disguise can walk out of their base safely.
Yeah, it is really, really tough. They got no vision anywhere except that 1 ward over by the Baron pit, which is obviously not where the action is right now. 3rd straight Mountain Dragon here for Cloud9 going to be grabbed up, so they're going to be very, very tanky at this point. Blaber, of course, started under Sky, but pure tank from then on out. Almost has his random wins completed, likely will on base, and Cloud9 just getting stronger and stronger and stronger. Feels like everyone is, almost that full item, if not even more, ahead of their opponents. Zven is not based in a long time. He's likely sitting on nearly IE gold if he doesn't already have it, but I think they're just saying, you know what, we don't even need to. We just keep the tempo up, we keep pushing, and we keep the pressure on DSG because they are very, very close to cracking here.
I mean, there's an exposed inhibitor in bottom lane. There's a dead inhibitor in top lane. The mid lane turret will collapse under the sheer amount of damage that C9 can do if it's left undefended for even a few seconds. It's just so hard for Disguise to play it here. And I say that, even though the turret's at 75% HP, because we have turbo-fed Gwen and turbo-fed Sylas.
And you got a rapid-fire Triforce Corki who just walks up and just pokes away at that tower. Very safe to actually get that siege going. Loki can wrap around through bot. It's an exposed inhib. Very difficult for Castle to do anything about this. If they overcommit to the side, then C9 might just take the fight.
Thanatos dropping the Hallowed Mist there. Needs to step back a little bit further. Tempered Fate hits the Gwen, but nothing more. eXyu trying to frontline here a little bit, but now it's Loki jumping into the middle of everybody for a 3-man Mega Gnar ulti. He hasn't found any kills here just yet. Vulcan's going to be the first one killed. ScaryJerry taking that one, but they lose eXyu in trade. A 1-for-1, but Disguised has lost their front line. eXyu is down, and Castle is so injured that he has to go back into the fountain to heal. This gives C9 the opportunity to knock down that last tier 3 turret. Loki goes into the back looking for who. He finds him with a Q2. Abscond Abduct will not hit Castle, but he steals the Gnar ulti again. He's got a second one locked and loaded, and C9 are not done yet. Now they're focused, turning back towards this bottom lane where the Sun Disk is slowly decaying. Minions from top and mid now marching towards the Nexus turrets, demanding the attention of Disguised. All 3 inhibitors now down. C9 looking for their victory push, but likely not able to achieve it just quite yet.
Yeah, not going to be able to achieve it just yet. Looks like they are going to back it off and play this one very, very safe. Baron is spawning here in 15. They are monstrously ahead. Probably a lot of gold in pocket for a number of these members, so likely just going back to base, buying up 1 more item, and then going to get back out on the map, take the Baron, and look to put the finishing touches on this one. There's the death cap completed. I think we're going to see IE on base for Zven as well. Yep, IE, death cap. Pretty good items to be buying this late on into the game.
The 2 most powerful damage multipliers in the game. Gonna do you pretty well when you're already sitting on 3 fully completed items beforehand. So C9 with a 12,000 gold lead almost. The one slight saving grace, I'm not even gonna call it a silver lining. I'll call it a tin lining on the Cloud. Is that all 3...
A tin-plated lining.
Tin-plated lining, yeah. It's
not even pure tin.
Not pure tin, that's expensive. That's expensive. We're at a 12,000 gold deficit right now.
Made of like old popsicle sticks.
Yeah, that's great.
That
tin popsicle sticks made with lead paint. It's just a classic.
Love lead paint in my popsicles.
Yeah, it's just delicious. delicious. It adds to the flavor. Don't try this at home. If you guys don't know what, just don't do it. But we have one inhibitor. We have one inhibitor, so there's not double super minions.
Huge.
That's it. That's
a
the
dub. We take
tin-plated lining.
those.
Yeah. That's about what Disguise... Okay, well, there are 2, thank you, observers. There were 2 spawning for a brief moment because all 3 were dead for about 30 seconds there. So we do have a couple duets marching down there.
That's
but
kind of
right
messed
now,
up. The observer just called you out like that.
well, actually, I can respect that. I can respect.
Yeah.
I want to be called out if I'm spreading misinformation. So there's not going to be any more duets
Not
of
me.
super minions.
Don't call me out on my
You don't want to get called
misinformation,
out.
no.
You just want to sprout some nonsense.
No, I just want blind support.
Yeah.
I just say something that is like verifiably false. I just want you to be like, hell yeah, brother.
Hell yeah, brother.
Tell it like it is.
Well, I'll tell you. I'll tell it like it is right now. It is dire for Disguised, man. This is absolute doomsday for these dudes as they are trying to hold on. Stolen Bard ulti finds Abbedagge, but the follow-up is not there from the rest of C9. Abbedagge, though, getting poked by the Corki, as now Thanatos putting the work in here on the top lane. Inhib, bot lane Inhib about to respawn here next. Mid lane will be respawning soon thereafter, but those crystals still have to fully materialize as Disguise scrambles. They know they only have one chance left to try and hold this and try and defend. Zven, Loki, Vulcan, all on the bottom side of the base while Blaber and Thanatos provide extra pressure up at the top half, and eXyu is already dead before the fight even starts. The bullet time doesn't accomplish anything. Castle, Mega Gnar's one dude just backwards, not even into a wall. Loki's already godlike, and Blaber tackles in after ScaryJerry, who he escapes back through the Nexus, but not all the way. It's a double kill for Loki, and everybody on Disguised is wiped from the rift. 16-3, Cloud9 made it look easy.
Dominant performance there from Cloud9, start to finish.